If you feel like your tom fills are frantic, panicked, and you're just out of control and flailing the whole time that you're playing them, then today's lesson is for you. It's easy to believe that practicing a bunch of tom fills is all you need to do to play smooth singles around the kit. But the truth is there are two big fixes you must make first. You saw them in the thumbnail, then everything else falls into place. Today we're diving into those two critical factors to look at, as well as a few other helpful tips, so that your tom fills go from frantic to smooth, fluid, effortless, and even fast. Without making these two critical shifts that I'm breaking down for you today, you might continue struggling with actually feeling in command, like in control and comfortable behind your drums, which makes playing anything confidently and smoothly and effortlessly a struggle. So let's solve all of this today. You can do this. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginners know what to practice so that they can nail songs and sound awesome with a band and become the person that other people want to have in their band, that they want to jam with. So we're going to talk about those two big fixes in just a moment, but first, I've got a free gift for you in the description. I want you to know what grooves and fills to play, even if you're a total beginner. You know, when you're starting out, the biggest struggle is just not knowing what to play. Like, you want to play your favorite songs, but you feel like you have no building blocks. I want to solve this for you. Grab my 25 practical rock grooves and fills for the beginner drummer e-guide. It is exactly what the title says. It's a bunch of simple grooves, simple fills that are super practical and musical that you're going to hear and use in probably 95% or more of pop and rock songs. And so you can go through and start learning these, and this will get you up and running so you can just feel empowered to actually play some of your favorite songs. And so this is kind of your shortcut, your cheat to really getting rolling and having a lot of fun. So be sure to grab that. My free gift to you in the description below, 25 practical rock grooves for the beginner drummer. When I was sort of a advanced beginner, maybe intermediate drummer, I was practicing one day and I was watching myself in the mirror as I was playing, and I realized I'm doing something with my sticks that is actually inhibiting my smooth flow and motion around the kit. I realized in that moment, this is what's actually keeping me from playing smoothly and freely around the drum set, which was a huge aha moment. If you happen to catch last week's lesson about the 8 big aha moments, this was one of them. And so you might already be familiar with this. And basically this lesson today, we're going into more detail about this whole thing from that aha moment. But what I noticed in my playing was that, okay, if I'm doing singles with one hand, the stick's moving smoothly, great. But then when I go to alternating singles, here's what happens. Do you see the difference? This is what I was doing. Here's what it should have been. That first way, the thing that I noticed I was doing was I was choking out the rebound. The problem with that is that it's really hard to move around the drum set if you're doing that. Everything is clumsy and stiff and awkward. But if you've got the motion happening, the smooth up and down, no matter what, a lot of magical things start to happen where suddenly things are smoother, more effortless, you don't rush as much, you're able to play slow well, and you're able to play fast well. A lot of really cool things, but there's a couple of different things that go into that. The two big fixes we're talking about today, the first one especially is going to help you do this, and this was probably the big reason why I was struggling with it to begin with, because there was actually a grip issue. There was an issue with how I was holding the sticks, and that was preventing me from doing that. And so that's what we're going to get into today. Here's where we're going. Like we said at the beginning, it's easy to believe that practicing a bunch of tom fills, like just learning a bunch of fills, is all you need to do to play smooth singles around the kit. But the truth is there are these two big fixes that you've got to make first, and then everything else falls into place. So you're like, Steven, you just told me to download that PDF guide with the 25 grooves and fills, and I'm going to be squared away and good to go. That is going to give you a way to practice what we're talking about today. I want you to grab that guide because that's going to give you a bunch of fills that you can use to practice the technique and the motion that we're talking about today. But if you skip over today's lesson, you skip over these two fixes, you could work on all of those fills, but they could still be choppy and stiff and not sound good. But that's not going to be you. You're going to get them sounding awesome because you can do this. You're going to put in the focus and the effort to get your technique squared away and make these two fixes. So here we go. Fix number one. Use the drum set grip when you're playing on the drum set. So the reason I call it this is because a lot of times if we're playing on a practice pad, I'm gonna grab mine right here. This is a great practice pad, by the way. It's the Aquarian Super Pad. It's my favorite practice pad because it's not overly springy, but even so, it's got a good bit of bounce to it. You can see how much it's bouncing. A lot more than my low tune snare for sure. And the thing about practicing a lot on a bouncy practice pad is that we tend to do this dainty sort of grip where we're holding the stick out here near the end of our finger, maybe with index like this, and we're going. And we're like, great, we're getting rebound. Well, that works on the practice pad, that very dainty, very loose kind of grip. But then what happens if we apply that same grip to the full drum set? Especially if the drums are tuned low, like mine are right now. Here's what happens. The T-Rex starts to happen. In the words of a student of mine, I feel like I'm flailing. I feel like, I've got this ocean to cross between sounding good on the pad and sounding good on the kit. And this is a huge disconnect for so many beginners because the academic approach is, okay, work on your rebound on your pad, work on your singles, your doubles, your paradiddles, your rudiments, do all that stuff on the pad, and then now you can become a drum set player. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. If you want to become a drum set player, you need to play the drum set, but you also need to have the right grip, the right motion, the right mindset of here's how we're going to play when we're on the kit, which you can practice on a practice pad too, but you can also practice on your leg and you can also airplay. So when I say drum set grip, what we need to do here, instead of this dainty kind of super loose grip out here, let's just move our fulcrum. Maybe we were doing our fulcrum right here for the practice pad grip, but instead let's move it to the middle finger and let's slide it closer to our palm. What this does is it enables us to put more pressure on the stick from our thumb without having to try hard. It's just like the whole steak thing, if you touch your thumb to your index right here, okay, that's what a rare steak should feel like. This is medium rare, medium, well done, etc. Something like that. Idea is, notice how this muscle here on your thumb gets more firm as you're reaching further across. Well, if you're having to reach further out with your thumb, you're having to press harder. But what if your thumb is only having to go right here? Instead of having to meet a fingertip with your thumb, what if your thumb just goes right here because you've established your fulcrum right here? You can put a firm, secure pressure on the stick without this right here being firm at all. This muscle's very soft. My thumb is not exerting a whole lot of pressure right here, but yet I have all this control because my fulcrum is here deeper inside my hand, which allows me to curve my fingers around, again, without squeezing. Combine that with a little bit of sweat, put a little bit of lotion on there. Use Vic Grip sticks. There are other brands that do this too, where you've got like the coating on them. Do whatever you got to do to grip your sticks more easily so that work all those things together. And now you've got what we can call the drum set grip, which enables us to move the stick up and down like this, hinging it because we have a hinge point here, but it's a stable enough hinge point. We can manipulate the motion of the stick without relying on springy rebound that's not going to come from any surface on an actual drum set unless we were playing on the top of the hi-hat. That's really the only super bouncy place, but how often are we doing that? Not often at all in rock drumming. Maybe we're getting some rebound out of the ride, but what about when we're crashing the edge of the ride or we're hitting a crash cymbal? If we're hitting toms, especially a floor tom, or if we're playing rim shots on the snare, there's so many things we're going to hit where it's not sending the stick back out. We're having to create the motion ourselves. So what I want you to practice doing is creating that drum set style fulcrum, our drum set grip here, and moving the stick up and down and then seeing, okay, can I airplay this motion back and forth, just like this? Now can I do it on my leg? We're playing lightly. We're not trying to bruise ourselves. We're playing lightly. And now move it to a floor tom. Hit anything on your kit, edge of your hi-hats. And now suddenly you find, okay, now I have motion. This motion is going to allow me to play much more fluidly around the drums so that suddenly my tom fills start to become a lot more fluid and not so much frantic. Because now if we want to play around the kit, or even simpler than that, just smooth alternating singles, and it's that simple. So that is the absolute biggest fix that you can make that really could be a game changer for you. It was a game changer for me. That grip shift has been a game changer for so many of my students, helping them transition from just playing on a pad to actually playing on the full drum set and feeling in control and not flailing. That's going to lead you so much toward fluidity on the toms. But let's move on to the next thing. Fix number 2. So this is a really big one, but we're also going to get into a 3 and 4 here because they're just additional tips that'll help you continue to apply what you're learning here. But this is the big fix number 2. Position your drums for easy access. It sounds obvious, right? But a lot of times as a beginner, when you're setting up your drums, you don't really know where to put stuff, where not to put stuff. And the best way you learn is just by observing other drummers' setups. But they're not the same height as you. They're not the same playing style as you. You have to figure out your own ideal setup. So I have a lesson here on the channel that is all about that, adjusting and setting up your drum set to be ideal for your body, for your height, for the length of your legs, the length of your arms. And so that'll hopefully help you out a bunch. I'll link that below. You can go into more depth here. But the big thing I want to emphasize right now is rack tom placement. It is so important to have your rack tom in a good, comfortable spot because most fills that we play, especially when we're doing tom fills like we're talking about today, if we want to play tom fills, odds are we're going to and from the rack tom. Most tom fills, we're not skipping over the rack tom. It's pretty rare that we skip straight over to the floor tom. A lot of times we're using both of them, and maybe there are 2 rack toms, maybe there are 2 floor toms, maybe there's even more toms. I've just got a simple 1 up, 1 down setup here. I like simplicity. I'm a minimalist when it comes to my setup. Maybe you have more toms. But hey, here's what I want you to pay attention to here. Lower your rack tom as close to the height of your snare as it will go. So you can see right now, I'm going to move this camera around right here. We'll treat it like a handheld camera today. You can see where my rack tom is at in relation to the snare. It's like barely higher, like the rim might be an inch above the snare drum head. And also I have it angled toward right here. It's basically angled toward my right leg. It's angled toward a spot that's halfway in between the floor tom and the snare because I want it to be angled toward the average of this direction and this direction because we're either going to here or from here or to here or from here. So it makes sense to angle it this way. As far as how much you angle, that's up to you. If I hold the camera down here, let's see, let me get my leg out of the way here. You can see roughly how much it's angled. It's not a ton, but I'm definitely not a fan of doing the whole flat thing where the rack tom is flat. It's fine, you can angle it. It doesn't need to be a super steep angle, but what you'll find is that when you get it nice and low like this, it doesn't have to be a steep angle. You can see how we've got a little bit of space right here. It's not quite touching the kick drum, and so we have some room. Now, the trick here is that you might be running into the issue of, you're like, Steven, I've got a big kick drum. I have a big, deep rack tom. If that's you, you just got to do the best you can. And so it is trickier. I'm a fan of small drums. This is a 20-inch kick drum, and this little 12-inch rack tom is thinner than 12 inches. It's not a square. I've had drums where the rack tom is just as thick as it is, you know, diameter-wise. This one is thinner, which is fantastic because I'm able to get it exactly where I want it. I love small drums for that reason. You can get just as much low end out of low drums as you can out of big drums. I mean, listen, decide for yourself. Plenty of low end, plenty of massiveness and thunder. And so that works for me. I'm happy with this. Plus, when you've got little drums, you get more tone and punch. And so when you start tuning them up, you get a lot of that punchiness. And these sound awesome in a jazz tuning too. So they're very versatile. Small drums are more versatile. So all that to say, if you are in the market for a new kit, if you're thinking about drum sizes, don't be scared of small drums because they will make it easier for positioning your rack tom exactly where you want it and not having to make compromises. Now, obviously, we're not all in the position to just go out and buy a new kit and test out smaller drums. If you are, then awesome. If not, that's okay. What I want you to play around with, if you're finding that you're not able to get that rack tom low enough because the kick drum is too big, see if maybe you could sit a little bit higher because a lot of drummers don't sit as high as they should. I've gradually, over the years, sat higher and higher. I've gradually adjusted my throne a little bit higher and higher. And so what you want to make sure is that your hip is higher than your knee, that your thigh is sloping down. And so you very well might be able to adjust your throne a couple inches higher than you have it. And by doing that, that means snare can come up a little bit, floor tom can come up a little bit, and now suddenly your rack tom isn't as awkwardly high. So if you're dealing with a large bass drum and you're dealing with a large rack tom, you're probably gonna have to move that rack tom a little bit over to your left away from the kick drum. But if you sit higher and you can raise your floor tom and your snare up a little bit to at least match that rack tom, it won't be quite as awkward. So you do what you gotta do, you do the best you can here. But I promise you, if you can get your rack tom in a more comfortable place, because we're moving to it and from it so much, that's gonna help you feel so much more confident moving around the kit and playing fills. It really can be that stupid sometimes where it's like, why is this not feeling good? Why is this not feeling good? Oh, it's because my rack tom is too high or my rack tom is too far away. You know, get it in a logical position. Do the best you can to get it where it needs to be so that it's that much easier to get to and from, and you'll feel that much more effortless and flowing as you move around the tom so that it's less frantic, less panicked, and more smooth and more flowing. When you combine that with the grip thing we just talked about, you're gonna start feeling invincible as you move around the kit. So those are the two big fixes, but we're not done yet because we want to get even more into practical application. You know, how are we actually going to use all this? And so really our third step is practice singles around the kit regularly. I tell my students, practice singles around the kit every day. Start your practicing with this. This is something I'll start with. When I come down here and let's say I haven't played in a while, I'll sit down and I'll just go. I'll just play real simple stuff like that, making sure it's tight, making sure it's feeling good. So what I want you to do is sit here and practice going. You can replace that last floor tom note with a kick drum note to give you time to move over here. Right kick, right. That way you can just loop that over and over again, paying attention to the motion. And if you realize there are any issues, especially if you realize you have a weak hand, sit here and just practice moving one hand back and forth. Do the same thing with your right hand. Just practice getting comfortable with that. Again, we're paying attention to that drum set grip. We're making sure we're gripping right. We've got our drums positioned well, and we're just moving in smooth arcing motions among the three different pairs we have here. Now, the more drums you have, the more places there are you can go. But practice moving from your snare to any drum, and then practice moving between different pairs of drums. It doesn't matter so much what order you go in or where you go, it's just the fact that you're doing it. And so then go back to the alternating singles. Extra points if you pay attention to where you're hitting, so that you're hitting your toms in the center, you're hitting the snare in the center, you're playing even dynamically. You're deciding, okay, I'm going to play softly. Or I'm going to play loudly. Pick a dynamic, stick to it, work on being consistent in your sound and in your volume, and just do that over and over again. Spend the first like 10 minutes of your practicing doing that, and that'll help recenter you, refocus you, and get you sounding awesome as you're moving around the kit. Then, last thing here, step 4, mix these singles around the kit with grooves in order to create fills. So it literally could just look like this, where we play a groove for 3 bars, we play a fill on bar 4. You get the idea. You can do whatever you want to. You can do the same fill every 4th bar, But I encourage you to start thinking of ways to mix it up a little bit, where you're still practicing just the alternating 16th. It's singles every time, but just see, what drums can I go to? What if I start here? What if I start here? What if I start down here and get really weird? Just alternating singles. Don't overcomplicate it, and practice doing that every 4th bar over and over again. Then your final icing on the cake bonus is grab the PDF guide I told you about earlier, the 25 practical rock grooves and fills for the beginner drummer. That gives you a whole bunch of cool fills you can start practicing. And as you work on those, you're applying everything that we've done today, which is drum set grip for smooth up and down motion. We're creating rebound instead of trying to rely on a surface to produce it for us. We've got our rack tom in place, our drums positioned well so that we're comfortable. We've opened up our practicing with singles around the kit, and we've worked on those arcing motions, and we've practiced feeling where a fill might come on every bar 4. And so now you're ready to go learn a bunch of grooves, learn a bunch of different fills, listen to music and see what else you can hear and learn, and play along the songs. That's what I want you to do next. And I promise you do all this stuff, you're going to grow a ton, and your fills honestly will go from frantic to fluid very quickly. So take action on this stuff. You're going to feel more secure and controlled in your playing. You're not going to feel like you're flailing anymore. You're going to actually feel intentional and feel like, yes, I've got this. I feel like I'm becoming one with my instrument. I'm at home behind my drums, because you're able to achieve the rebound and motion you need from any surface that you hit, even if you're crashing a crash cymbal. And so you'll play equally smoothly no matter the surface, because you're creating the motion, and you'll play more fluidly, confidently, and even quickly around the drums. You'll find yourself rushing less, and you'll find yourself able to play faster while staying smooth and not hitting a speed ceiling so quickly. So, question for you as you go: which of the 2 big fixes do you think is the most helpful one for you? Was it the drum set grip thing? Was it the rack tom placement? Which of those do you think is the most impactful for you? Leave a comment below. Know that, as always, you can do this. You can master the drums one step at a time, one practice session at a time. Have that habit of just working on this a little bit every day, and I promise you're going to get results. I hope this lesson's been valuable for you. As always, stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.